Joyce Woodworth. Welcome to the Spirit of Winona. Today we have the opportunity to see a very unique home near Winona. This home used to be a poultry barn and it was converted to a house back in the 1970s. The setting on the bluff side is absolutely beautiful, and the gardens around it make you feel like you're in a romantic escape. Let's go around the back of the house and meet the owner of this engaging spot. The barn house is located a short distance from Winona along the Mississippi River in the area known as Twin Bluffs. The smaller of the two bluffs is known as Queen's Bluff, and the one closer to Winona is referred to as King's Bluff. Hidden below and overlooking the mighty Mississippi, which on this day could be called the lazy Mississippi, stands the Dutch barn house. Tall cedar trees shade the northern side of the house and hang over a full garden of hostas and ferns. Below the Dutch shape of the barn roof is a sage green siding, and the stucco wall below is covered with vines, leading to a charming entrance. I'm sitting behind the beautiful barn house now with Maureen Cooney, the owner of the house and the designer of the garden. She's prepared a little tea for us. Hi Maureen, welcome to the Spirit of Winona.
Well, welcome Joyce. I'm glad you could join me this afternoon for tea out here in the shade of King's Bluff.
This is a beautiful setting.
Thank you very much.
It's so romantic looking, and I love your flowers and your greenery. Did you plant it all yourself?
Actually, I laid the patio and the retaining wall 26 years ago, and know that because the daughter I was pregnant with had a birthday 2 days ago. And started out with all kinds of flowers because we had not as many trees at that time, and really have accepted I live in the shade, and with the shade you have the opportunity to invest in different kinds of flowers, and what you really focus on are the leaves. And what you see here is a variety of hostas, 35 different varieties, and a number of stilbes. I think I have 12 different varieties of stilbes. They bloom, they have pink and white blooms earlier in the year, and some echinacea is surviving, and impatiens give me that color, as well as I've used a lot of purple leaves like the ajuga, and there's a Japanese sushi plant up there, Aki soshi, which I've gotten and I've used over here a couple times with some coleus. It's a different challenge. You look at the foliage to create your image versus gorgeous flowers. So.
You mentioned the Japanese sushi plant.
Yes.
Is that something that you would use like an herb to make sushi with?
The purple leaves, which are there, and then I've used them also over there. The large leaf can be steamed and then used as the wrap for sushi. And I have to admit, I love sushi.
I know that you have a lovely fountain back there with a beautiful rock with moss. Is the rock natural to the hillside?
Actually, the rock was discovered when the septic system was put in. This barn was originally part of a huge estate, which incorporated 2 homes and this barn. And so when this was purchased separately, a septic field and a well was put in, and that rock was found and dragged back here and just put against the embankment. And it just seemed like a perfect place for a pond. And I came home from work one day and there was a pond there. So it was like, okay, now we do water gardens.
And so what do you have planted in your water garden? It looks like it's quite healthy looking.
Oh, well, thanks. I have some water lettuce. I have water hyacinth, 2 different kinds of papyrus, and a plant that I'm not sure what it is, but it just looked good in the pot.
Now let's talk a little bit about your barn itself. You mentioned that it was part of an estate.
Correct.
Let's talk about the history of the barn first off.
Well, I was looking at the abstract, and the home next to me was owned by someone by the name of Whitaker. And he had a son getting married, and so as a wedding surprise, he built this barn as a poultry barn, giving his son an occupation, and then he built a home for the newlywed couple, which was actually down on the highway, and it has since been moved closer. And the rumor or the tales in the neighborhood are that the son really wasn't interested in raising poultry. So the barn was only used for a very few years, and when it came on the market, it was purchased, and then it became a small home within the huge barn, and then I designed the plans to make a larger home. And it was a family project. And so what I can figure from the abstract is the structure itself was built in 1941. There was chickens raised here in cages, as well as turkeys, my understanding. And actually there was a couple of Quonset huts that were up in the backyard, so this was a lot more open at that time. And you could drive up there and you could drive around. There was a circular driveway all around the whole barn. And it seemed like when I looked at it, I thought, well, I want a garage. We wanted a garage, and so we cut garage doors in, and there was a room in the back that was just being used for tools. It had been the room where the poultry was gotten ready for market, defeathered, etc., put in its plastic bags and then shipped off. And actually the poultry here were used at a estate down the river, which was called River Haven, and which had been a hotel, and it was used a lot during the World War II time. With this shed in the back, we had talked to the people who were helping us do the construction work, and they suggested, well, knock out the first top 7 layers of cinder block and put screens in. So we did that. So I have a nice, lovely screen porch as a result.
Well, I'm very anxious to go inside that house and see how you've converted that barn into a house.
Well, let's do so.
Okay.
Okay.
Maureen points out her favorite flowers on the pathway and describes the vine around her door as Wrigley Field ivy. A hidden face in the ivy appears to be watching our every move. Maureen, this is so countryish. I just love your decor. It's so pretty and quaint in here.
Thank you, thank you. I'm so happy you could come in and see my home. I enjoy it. It was fun to convert the barn. This barn was 3 rooms.
Okay.
A first floor, 20 by 100 feet. A second floor, 20 by 100 feet, and a third floor. And so what this room was actually our original living room. Over there was our bedroom and the little kitchen. We have low ceilings down here on the first floor because this was the original height of the ceilings. When we go upstairs, you'll see that we've raised the ceilings to have a little higher rooms. It's a fun room. This is sort of what became the American Great Room. I have, I'm a curator of the family furniture. This furniture will be all of my 2 daughters' possessions as soon as they settle down and have their own lives. But it's a collection of beautiful pie safe that had been their great-grandmother's, and table that was their grandfather's. And these chairs are, this particular chair actually came from home in Texas and was brought here. And so each of my daughters will have nursing rockers to start their lives out when they are in that position. So I love this room because I have a view of the river, and in the wintertime there's an eagle's nest across the river that I get to look at with my binoculars.
And this is a real antique cupboard here with a tin top, isn't it?
I always, when girls need something, I say, okay, it's in the Mother Hubbard. So I stayed at an auction when it was like about 100 degrees one day, and I picked this up. It was one of the last things to be auctioned off for $5. And I got my china cupboard from the same auction for almost that much. It was covered with coal dust. It was painted and varnished, but what a treasure. I love it.
Tell me about your plate shelf. Is that something you added just to display your dishes?
Right, yes. I have up here Wedgwood breakfast set. That was my grandma Cooney's, and I have cups and saucers and a few pieces for that. Several of the pieces are upstairs in the living room. And I just had china, and I love looking at my china, so we put this up, and it just is, it's a nice display.
Tell me about this nice hanging above your table.
That is a Swedish chandelier. A friend of mine gave me that. It was her great aunt's, and she emigrated here from Sweden. And I love candles. In fact, I had a friend who had a 30th birthday, And I said, well, we could come to my house for cake. And I was able to just go around, light all the candles, and I had 30 candles lit that we didn't have to put any on the cake. So candles are what, and this just adds such a wonderful glow to an evening meal.
Maureen, well, what goes beyond the room here?
Beyond the room is, and past the piano, is the library, and the laundry room, and an art shop, and also my screen porch.
Okay, well, let's go take a look.
Okay. This porch is where I have my breakfast, my dinners. I read out here. I just enjoy my garden without the mosquitoes.
Oh, it is just beautiful out here.
Sit on the
I love it.
swing and read my books, listening to my fountain play. It is a very relaxing place. I entertain out here a lot. It is actually, I think I mentioned, this was where the poultry was processed on its way to market. And it was a perfect way to create a screen porch. It's a good entertainment place, and have a nice porch swing, and there's been birthdays, christenings, graduation parties out here, bonfires.
Maureen, it looks like you've been working on something right over here.
Actually, yes, this is my Charter Lake Superior, and we had just been out there several days this couple of weeks ago, and traveled almost 100 miles, so I was just with my calipers charting the way we took and saw how many miles it was each day.
What a lovely spot to be able to sit and do your work.
Oh, I know. I usually am parked here, the coffee's there, and I'm looking out here, watching the birds. My hummingbirds, they are often hanging around.
Well, the view is spectacular. It's nice and cozy back here, and I see lots of pretty, pretty colors back here. And tell me about that one tree. It almost looks like a Japanese oriental thing.
Well, I saw a Japanese maple and wanted one so badly. We're too far north for that. And what I compromised with, this is a smoke bush, and it sends out these plumes, and it just gives me that height and color that I want.
Oh, I think it would be just a wonderful idea for you to have a bed and breakfast back here. Have a little violinist or someone playing here in the corner and looking at your beautiful site.
Oh, wouldn't that be great? That would be the thing. I have considered it, but you never know. It's a possibility.
Now we're at the top of your barn, and this is your living room. Tell me about your construction up here.
Well, actually, we are in the second and third floor. I lived in Fountain City. In fact, my building where my first independent living is in that rug I hooked up there, and I lived on the second floor where they opened the third floor, and it was a beam ceiling. So when we looked to create a home inside the structure, I designed this, and I do have a practical nature, and I wanted a ceiling I would never have to paint other than once, so I did the stained ceiling.
The ceiling follows the form of the barn roof and hangs over a lovely open 2-story living room. Tearing out the third floor over this space created an open room which Maureen has made cozy and comfortable with a Franklin stove fireplace and her family's heirloom furniture. Tell me a little bit about the rug that you hooked behind us. Is that, now you designed that, and so are you an artist? Did you do it on a loom? Tell me about that.
It's a hooked rug, and what I did was I dyed the fabric for with various different kinds of dyes, aniline dyes, and some of it, where you see the very color, is actually vegetable dyes. I used onion skins for some colors, and different grapes for other colors. And you dye your fabric, and then you cut it into thin strips, and then the backing of it is Irish burlap, and then it's you pull your little loops up and create whatever design. It is my ascension to heaven. That's what. And one person said, "Well, I think you should say it's your assumption to heaven." The doll houses that you see is a family tradition. My father goes off to Canada fishing and finds Santa Claus. whenever he has a granddaughter who's going to be 5, and they get together and start constructing dollhouses. And then the rest of the family participates in the construction and furnishing of them. So I have 2 daughters, 2 dollhouses. And like all my furniture, when I downsize, I hope they'll be ready to take the dollhouses too.
Tell me about the quilt hanging on the wall behind us.
Oh, it is a muslin with a depression green. It's called the basket pattern, and the basket pattern is a sign of hospitality. And my sister gave it to one of my daughters, and she decided that we should hang it up because we like having friends over.
Beyond the living room lies 3 bedrooms decorated in Marine's tasteful country charm and filled with more special family heirlooms. In the master bedroom is a complete set of pre-Depression furniture that was handed down from her great aunt. On the bed lies a special quilt.
A quilt that was made by my great-great-grandmother, the first of my forebears to come to the United States. She came when the famine was over as a 17-year-old girl, Ann Kilcarry. She married a Luke Walsh, and she worked for Marshall Fields. She came over and she was hired as a seamstress, and the fabrics in the quilt, it's a Victorian crazy quilt, are fabrics that were left over from when she made dresses for the wealthy of Chicago. Mrs. Armour, Mrs. Potter Palmer. We know them as companies now, but at that time, and Mrs. Marshall Field, they're gorgeous fabrics, the like of which is really hard to come by. I have a painting on the wall that was a gift to my great-grandmother, a wedding gift. It's an oil painting of a path through an orchard, and when the sun comes up in the spring and in the fall, this room is flooded with pink, and that painting is illuminated with. The beauty of that painting is that no matter what time of day it is, that painting takes on the quality of that time of day.
Marina, I want to thank you for having us into your beautiful home. It's just been enchanting, and it's so cozy and countryish. I just love it. Thank you so much.
Joyce, it's been my pleasure. It's a good thing to do today. Beautiful day, your bright smile.
Well, thank you, and thank you also for joining me. Please join me again next week. Till then, enjoy the Spirit of Winona.